We're about to get wired. By the end of this video, hopefully we got this car wired up. I've got a battery box, I've got a kill switch, battery cables, gauges, and a wiring harness. Other than those things, the only thing we got left are lights. I've got the tail lights in it already. We gotta get some headlights on it. I think I'm gonna start with the kill switch, getting it mounted. And I got one with a rod on it. And I believe I'm gonna mount it right there coming out of the backup light. Okay, here's the plan. Drill a hole through this backup lens, big enough for this grommet, so we can put this rod through there. And that rod, it's got a little bit of play in that grommet, hopefully enough. If not, I have a grommet that's one size bigger. I'll just drill the hole a little bit bigger and put a bigger grommet. So the plan is right now, drill a hole through that without breaking it. Wish me luck. The fact that I was able to drill out this old brittle plastic is pretty amazing to me. Hopefully we can fit this grommet in there. Without breaking it. All right, let's test fit the rod in there. Man, it's a little tight. I think it'll work, but it is pretty tight. May end up, before it's over with, putting the bigger grommet in there. But that does slide through. I like that it is tight because it seals it off. Well, that's about what it's gonna look like. That'll be on, that'll be off probably, somewhere in there. I like it right here because it's kind of hidden a little bit. I didn't want to drill a hole in the body. Somewhere online I seen a picture of somebody doing it through their taillight and gave me the idea. So what I'm gonna do here, this thing will be mounted up. And get that bolt in there. So this thing will be mounted up here. So what I'm gonna have to do is build a bracket to come up from here to there. And then I'll probably bring it down over here somewhere. So what I did was just kind of hold it where I wanted it. And I measured from the bottom of this to the floorboard there. And that'll be my first measurement on my little bracket, just trying to figure out how I'm gonna make it. All right, so I took a measurement to the bottom of that cutoff switch, and it's like 7 inches. So what I did was I marked this 1.25 inches so I can bend it down and put like a couple bolt holes in it to mount it to the floor. And then I measured up 7 inches from that. So my plan is just take my cutoff wheel and score this pretty deep and bend it. And once I get it bent where I want it, I'll just go back and weld the score mark up to keep it in place. Never tried this before, hopefully it works. If it don't, well, we'll just cut it off and weld it where we want it. But it worked, I mean, so far anyways. So I got that bent up for the flange, the mount on the floor. The floor's not completely flush, that's why it's bent up. And I bent that on 90. I just need to get my measurement over here, bend it down, and then probably bend another flange on it, and we'll have this bracket made. All right, here's what I come up with. It's all bent. Now I can just take where I cut that and just run a bead down it with my welder, and it should be pretty sturdy. Originally I was gonna put some bracing in here, like a couple of gussets, but I mean, this is 1/8 inch. I'm not mounting anything other than that switch on there for now, so it shouldn't need the gussets on it. I went ahead and made it like 1 foot long, just in case I want to mount like some fuses or something on here. I haven't decided yet what all I'm putting in there, but if I want to mount something else on there, I've got the room, because that kill switch is only like 4 inches long. So let's see what it looks like inside the car. It's going to mount up probably about right there. That'll sit on that. I'll bolt it down, and then I've got room to mount something else right there if I need to. Thinking about mounting my battery right here. The cables won't be too long if I mount it right here. Just go to that. I'm trying to keep the inside of the trunk area clear, just in case I want to haul something back here. I didn't put the fuel cell in here. I went with the original fuel tank, so I didn't have a fuel cell in here, and I put the battery off to the side, and that gives me all that room there to put stuff in if I want to haul something in the back of the trunk there. My future plans with this car, I'd like to do at least one drag and drive with it, and that gives me an empty trunk space to pile junk in and haul it. So that's the plan anyways. All right, so I got my battery box. I want to mount it right here, but the floor is not level all the way across there. I don't think it'll be a big deal because my battery actually bolted down with these two bolts, which are kind of in the center. I don't think it's ever gonna rock it over, but I've come up with a solution to make sure it never, I guess, rocks over. And let me show you what that is. This is what I come up with. I took this old street sign, I put the box on there, I drew it out, and then I added 2 inches to it. So I'm basically gonna cut this square out and then try to bend this lip over. Then I'll have a tray for it to set on. After I got it cut out, I clamped it in here at the 2-inch mark. I actually turned it over because I didn't want to see the orange side. I clamped it in at this 2-inch mark. I'll probably just take a hammer or something and beat this down to kind of bend it over. I don't have a metal brake, so I'm kind of improvising right now. That's what I've got. All right, checked it with my square. That's pretty close to 90. Who says you need those fancy benders? So when I bent it, I marked it 2 inches, even though I didn't need that much, because I didn't know how much this bend was gonna make it grow. So I need to cut about that much off of it, I believe, and then we'll test fit it and see what it looks like. All right, after trimming it 2 or 3 times, it fits on there pretty good. Seems pretty stable. I think once we get this on there, it'll look all right. It don't have any rock in it, so that's good. And once we peel this protective coating off, it'll all match and look like a box that goes all the way to the floor right there. So I'm happy with it. Now we just need to get it mounted down. All right, I got the battery box mounted and the kill switch mounted. This thing's got such a long throw. This handle sticks way out there when it's on, but that'll be okay. It works. It doesn't bind up with the tail light or anything. So I'm happy with it. Now I guess I'll get in the car and remove the old wiring harness and the gauges, the radio. I guess just basically remove all the wiring out of there. Once I get all the wiring removed, I can go ahead and get my gauges mounted. And once I get everything mounted, then I'll just start running the wires to everything. I've got the wiring harness pulled out. This is what I've pulled out so far. There's a few more wires like the ones that go from the dashboard back to the taillights. I haven't got those pulled yet, but you look at that amount of wire and then that amount of wire. There's a lot going on there. And I mean, this is what you get in the kit. So I mean, it comes with a new dimmer switch, light switch, basically everything that you need. So we're gonna put this in and probably only use about half of what's there because that's probably all I'll need, but I will have the rest of it for when I do need it. Like one day I'll probably put an electric fan in this car and I'll have that spot to hook the electric fan up. But for now, we're just gonna get the necessities like headlights, taillights, brake lights, you know, get it to where I can start it. Just the basics for now. I'm gonna kind of show you the inside. It looks kind of empty right now. I've got the gauges out, I've got the radio out, and basically all the wiring here. And where the wiring, the old wiring harness actually screwed to the firewall right here, and the connectors come out the back of the wiring harness that fit everything. So now I need to cut me a patch and weld this up. Wish that I would have thought about this before I got this far along, because now it's going to be kind of a pain in the butt to to weld a patch in there. I may have to take a few things off to get to it. But yeah, it would have been great if I'd have thought about it, I don't know, like a year ago when I painted this firewall, that I was gonna patch that. But either way, we're gonna try to make it work. I'm gonna get a patch panel cut out and get it welded in there, and then we'll go from there. All right, got my little piece cut and kind of fit in there. It's got a magnet behind it holding it in so I can tack weld it on. I went ahead and put like a fire blanket over most of this stuff just so I don't get the welding splatter on it. Put a cardboard over the windshield, so just in case it splatters up there, I don't want to hurt my windshield. This tape's just to kind of keep the splatter down a little bit on the paint. I don't know it'll do anything. It may heat up and melt the tape on there for all I know, but I'm gonna get this thing tacked on. I got the hole patched up. It didn't turn out too bad. You can tell it's there, but it'll be good enough for this car anyways. Ended up taking some toggle bolts, and I just cut them down shorter because they fit in a little gap there. I tried just like a regular hex nut, but you can't get a wrench on it, so I figured the toggle bolt, I can put a Phillips screwdriver in there and hold it while I tighten up the backside, and it should work. I just kind of held it up there and eyeballed it, and that is where it landed. So I think it's gonna work out. It's out of the way of the clutch pedal, which I don't intend using right now, but maybe one day we can afford a standard transmission. Now all I gotta do is start unraveling these wires and seeing where they go. I know that some of them's gonna go through the firewall. I actually had a hole over here in the firewall back here, and I went ahead and put a grommet in it so I can run the wires out of it, and once they come through there I got to figure out how to get them to the headlights, so that's going to be a trick there. The other wires that go to the coil, the starter, and the alternator, so not a whole lot under here to do for wiring. Basically get power to the motor and the starter, and then got the headlights and turn signals. All right, I've been studying the wiring for a little bit. I think I got to figure out how I'm gonna run my wire, but I got bored with it, so I started putting my gauge clusters in. I didn't record it, but this one right here, supposedly a direct fit. It took me about 3 hours to get it to where it looks decent. The little gauge cluster there, it took me about 30 minutes or so to fit it in, so it was a lot easier, but I still got to cut the holes where the gauges go. Basically all I've done now is just mount it there, and to mount it I just held it where I liked it, took a mechanical pencil and marked where the holes were, and I drilled them out with a 7/64 drill bit, and then I drilled the plastic out with a 5/32 drill bit. And I got these number 8 screws here from Lowe's. They're just little stainless screws. You can buy a package of them from Lowe's. The gauge set come with black screws for some reason. I don't know why you use black screws on a aluminum colored piece, but that's just what they give me. I mean, it's all plastic. It just looks like aluminum, but I don't know. For what it cost, I wish it would have fit a lot better. This one I'm still not super happy with, but I'm gonna run it the way it is now. It says it's a direct fit, but you know, some stuff never is. I just took a Sharpie and kind of drew where the edges of the gauges were. The middle gauge fits fine where the radio was. I just got to cut out basically where the knobs were on the radio. So I got those marked. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this off and cut that out, and then we can set our gauges in there and see what they look like. I'm gonna try to cut on my marks here where I drew out for these gauges. I know there's about 5 of them right here. Whatever, we'll make it work. I didn't know what I was gonna cut this out with. I was gonna try to use my jigsaw. I didn't really like that idea, so I went to Harbor Freight and I got one of these things. It's pretty dang loud, but hopefully I can cut straight with it, and I don't know. Either way, I've not used it yet, so we're gonna see how it works and if I like it or not. Alright, I gotta say this thing works pretty awesome. I mean, it cuts that stuff like butter. I mean, I know it's not very thick, it's super thin metal, but I like it so far. I'm gonna have to try it on a few other things, but so far for stuff like this, it's pretty awesome. So I give it a 2 thumbs up for now. I may hate it later. I got that cut out to where I think it's gonna fit the gauges. I don't know. I'm gonna put this back on and then I'll go grab a gauge and put it in all 3 holes and see if it fits, clears everything. If not, I'll mark it and cut out some more where it needs it. Got them fit in there. They fit up pretty good. Went ahead and put these gauges in too. They're just sitting in there, not bolted down. Just kind of get a look at what it's gonna look like. I think I like it. I almost wish I would have got these pieces in black because I got the phantom gauges with the black trim. But no, the black and silver, I don't know. It goes together good enough. I'll go ahead and I got the light switch that come with it. The threads on it are the same as the stock threads, so I'm actually able to reuse my stock light trim piece, so that's pretty cool. And get that in there, and I'll work on getting a couple other things in there, and then I'll start pulling wire to everything. Alright, so this wiring kit actually comes with pretty much everything you need. I had to go buy a few fittings, but it comes with a little adapters for your headlights. It's on the diagram, it tells you the correct way to hook them up, but it's kind of hard to understand. So I had to actually Google it and look it up, which one it is, like low beam, ground, and then high beam, according to what I found. Won't know until we get hooked up and turn the power on and see if it works. But yeah, I mean, the adapter's there. The only adapter that was in the package that did not work for me was the one for the starter ignition, which, I mean, this is an older ignition, so maybe that's why it doesn't fit. But all in all, I really like the wiring harness. All right, I'm gonna show you this just because I think it's funny. You may think it's genius, you may think it's total redneck engineering, but on both headlight buckets on the top, the clip was stripped out. Instead of taking the headlight bucket apart from the fender and putting a new clip in there, I found that a 3/8 toggle bolt will fit right through there. So you just jam that through there, put the toggle on their side, tighten it up, works great. Like I said, it may be super redneck, but it works. You just got to reach up under here and get it started and then tighten it up. It's all good. Works perfect. All right, I pretty much got the rest of the wiring done. I'm gonna try to run the battery up to the starter and fuse box. Then we can turn the power on and just basically see if the headlights and other things work. I may go ahead and bump the starter just to make sure it gets fire to it. And if all that works, man, we're getting really close to starting it up. So my plan is to run from the positive cable here to the kill switch and come out a bit and probably drill a hole right through the front of the trunk pan right there, because they give you these ginormous gaskets here, or what the heck are these things called? Grommets. So I took my calipers, measured the outside circumference of the hole, and it's 1.25 inches. Then I found this big old huge Christmas tree bit, and it goes up to like 1 3/8 inches. So we're good on that. I'm gonna drill a hole through right there, pop this in, then run my cable down along the side of my frame rail back to here. The ground, I'm just gonna go off the ground side of the battery over here to mount it on this bracket I built. You know, I ground it to the frame, but this whole car is a frame, so I guess I can just ground it anywhere. I don't know. We'll see if that works too. This is all a learning curve for me. Do you think this little drill will run this big bit? We're about to find out. Got my hose drilled. Drilled one right here for the battery going up to the front, battery cable going up to the front of the car. Then I drilled a hole up here for my alternator wire coming back. Probably should have drilled them on top of each other. I don't know why I drilled it there, to be honest with you, but I drilled it there. We're gonna make it work. I guess now I'll start making cables. I'll go ahead and make the short cable from here to here. That way I can put this end on the other one and just start running the cable till I get up there, and then cut it to length when I get up there, I guess. So I learned a bit of a lesson. I cut this with a hacksaw because that's all I could find. That makes it fray really bad. So anyways, I'm gonna try out these Harbor Freight crimpers I bought, see if they work very good. I don't know, is that a good crimp or not? Don't feel like it's going anywhere, so we'll go with it. Let's test fit it on there, see what it looks like. Maybe put it on there first. And slap it on there. I think that's gonna work out. So we'll put this crimp in on the other piece and just start running it down the frame rail, and we'll see where we end up. Got it all done, I hope. Or we're heading in the right direction if we're not. All right, got the battery hooked up, got that ran through. I ran the alternator up back, because I'm gonna have to hook the alternator to this side of my kill switch. And it wasn't long enough, but that wiring harness come with these mega fuses, so I'm gonna basically use one of those as a coupling. It shows to hook the alternator up to it anyways, so hey, that works out. I only have to buy a piece of wire that's a couple feet long to make that, rather than buy a whole new length of wire long enough to go from the front all the way to the back. I'll lift this up and I'll show you what I did underneath. Also, I put this wire tube sleeving on all of it just to give it a little bit extra protection. You can get this stuff at Harbor Freight fairly cheap, and it's actually pretty good stuff. But under here, you can see where I come through the trunk pan right there, and I just kind of followed the fuel line down. I got the main battery cable clamped off, and I just zip tied the alternator wire to that. But basically this ran down the frame rail with the fuel line, and we come up here to the starter. I don't think it turned out too bad. We'll see. The only spot I'm worried about is more or less my fuel line, because I've got my transmission cooler lines zip tied to my fuel line there, and I'll probably end up putting a heat shield between the two somewhere, because I don't want the fuel line to get hot. I don't think these battery cables are ever going to get hot enough to worry about. The heat rating on this wiring sleeve is pretty high. Up in the engine bay area, I try to keep everything as clean as I could. For my headlights and everything, I just came out as high as I could in the firewall, which is right there, and I come up underneath the fender supports and then around, and then up here on the radiator support I try to keep as high as I could, and the hood will cover that, so you'll never see those wirings. You'll never see those wires once the hood's on. And then feeding the starter and the distributor and everything, I come out right there, and I just kind of kept it tight to the transmission tunnel there as good as I could. Try to hide everything, that way you don't see a bunch of wiring just laid out everywhere. My alternator wire that goes to the back, I just come across and went across top of my valve cover with some little clamps, just to kind of keep it neat and tidy. Trying to keep it neat and tidy. I'm not an electrician. I'm just trying my best at this point. Inside the car, I got all the gauges and everything wired up. Light switch, windshield wiper, key, cigarette lighter. All the wiring is bundled up, hid underneath the dash. All my extra wires for stuff that I didn't use I kind of tied up and I put up inside underneath this kick panel. Once I get the kick panel on, you shouldn't see any of that. So everything should be hid. There's the fuse panel and there's the big old chunk of wires right there. I need to get some big wire loom or something to kind of tidy that up. But everything turned out all right so far. I think I'm gonna go ahead and turn the power onto it and see if some things work, like the lights, turn signals, brake lights, dash lights. I may go ahead and bump the starter just to see if the starter will crank. Just make sure things work. At the end of the day, I don't know how good a job I did until we try it. Throw the power to it. Hopefully nothing blows up. So far, so good. I don't see anything smoking anywhere. Let's look up here. Nothing should be on. All right, let's test out the, we'll start with the headlights, see if those work. Hey, we got headlights. Do we have park lights? No park lights are working. See if they're working in the rear. Okay, the park lights are working in the rear, but not the front. I mean, there's a possibility that the bulbs are bad. I'm gonna see if the high-low beams work. High beams, low beams. Hey, we're getting somewhere now. I like it. Wish the park lights worked. Had to figure that out. Also, it looks like all the gauge lights work. I don't know if I can dim them with this. Oh yeah, we can make them bright and dim them. Cool. Dimmer works, headlights work, tail lights work. Now we gotta try to see if the brake lights work. All right, we're gonna see if the brake lights work. Did they work? I don't know if they're working or not. They appear to be working. Let's see if they work with the headlights on, park lights on. Brake lights are working. Awesome. So I'm gonna try the turn signals, see if they work. Rear one's working. Front one's working. Awesome. Let's try the other side. Cool, we have turn signals. And we have hazard lights. Well, so far everything's working. I'm super excited. Well, everything except for the park lights. It may just be bad bulbs. I will dig into that later. I mean, it's weird that both of them aren't working, but both the bulbs might be bad. It may have the wrong bulbs, and I don't even know what's going on with that. Hopefully, it's just a bulb issue and not a wiring issue. The gauges are working. You can see that well, turn the light on. You can see that the amp gauge, or the voltmeter, is definitely working. It's showing 12 there. I'm gonna just bump the starter and just see if it has power. It does. Cool. Alright, I don't want to try to start it just yet. I just wanted to know if it had power to the starter and if it was going to work. So it sounded like the starter will kick. The solenoid kicked on. So it looks like everything should be working. I'm going to have to figure out what's going on with them park lights, but other than that, everything seems to be working just fine. I'm super excited about that. So I'm gonna dig into these park lights and see what I can't figure out on them. Hopefully it's just a bad bulb. If not, well, I'll dig into it and figure out what it is. If you see something that I screwed up, or I didn't do right, or you don't think I done right, or that's just a dumbass mistake, let me know in the comments. I'll try to correct it. Like I said, I'm not a professional, just doing this as a hobby. I want this thing to be right when I get to drive it. I want it to be right. Thanks for watching. I appreciate every review I get. So thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.